Joining us now on the line, he is Ross Bernstein. He is an author. If you've read The Code, that's Ross's book. What else have you written, Ross, hockey-wise?
Oh, gosh, I've written about 50 books, but I've written a couple books on Herb. I've written a couple books on Herb Brooks. I'm president of the Herb Brooks Foundation, so proceeds from all my stuff benefit that. And I did Dave Hansen's book from Slapshot, the Hansen brothers, and just a lot of different sports biographies from different hockey players and regional stuff. But
and you got a new one called
Raising. Would have been cool.
You got a new one called Raising Stanley as well?
Oh yeah, that one just came out. It was pretty neat. I interviewed a couple hundred players who all got their name on the cup. So it was all the champions. It was at least one player from every team over the past 50 years. So that was really cool to be able to interview and talk to all those guys.
BernsteinBooks.com for all of those titles. Now, Ross, wanted to get you on the program, first off, because you wrote The Code. You obviously know a thing or two about the hockey fight, but mostly you were kind of working a little bit with Derek Boogaard before his untimely passing on something, huh?
Yeah, it was really what a tragic day it was. Boogie and I, we met when I wrote The Code, and I interviewed him, and I'm media with the Wild, so I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him when he was, of course, with Minnesota, down in the locker room and whatnot. And when I wrote the Dave Hansen book, he said that's what I want. I want this book to tell all the stories. So we probably spent 2 years just doing interviews, and then when he wanted to move to New York, I said, we got to put this on hold because people in Minnesota are mad you left us, and people in New York know you, and they're mad that their team just spent $6.5 million on a guy who hasn't scored a goal in 5 years. So we got to wait a little while before this thing comes out. So we were going to resurrect it this summer and put it to press. It was called Meet the Boogeyman, Fighting My Way to the Top. So unfortunately, the book died with Derek, but he's a good friend, and I miss him.
Any story in particular during your chats with him that really stands out? What would have been on the press release when the book came out?
Well, Boogie was a fascinating guy. He was very misunderstood. He really did have the Superman cape. He really pushed the button when he entered the ice. His persona on ice and off ice was, as most enforcers, as you know, have that dual existence. But when he was off the ice, man, he was wearing custom Armani suits and the horn-rimmed glasses and just this, kind of uber intellectual looking guy. And then when he was on the ice, he was just a raving madman and was just agitating and beating the crap out of people. But he was so good at what he did. And I think the fascinating stuff that I learned about him was just growing up in Canada, just playing junior that first time when he was taller than all the other kids, and that first fight he got into, as terrified as he was, and he won, and that was it. Once that happened, he started getting noticed. All the junior teams wanted him, and really then it was pretty much at that point that he accepted, okay, this is my role. If I'm going to make it, this is how it's going to be, and he worked really hard to make it. So, and his contract he signed was the biggest ever for a pure enforcer. So it was interesting.
Ross Bernstein joining us, author of The Code, and was in the midst of writing a book with Derek Boogaard. I know this happens a lot when someone passes away, Ross, but all these great stories start coming out and people say he was a great guy, but I want to know stories from behind the scenes. You mentioned that you actually covered him with the Wild. Stories about in the dressing room, things that we as fans don't necessarily get to see. Because as you mentioned, as a fan, I knew Derek Boogaard as a guy who's going to beat the living shit out of you if, you were on the other end of a fight. But everyone keeps calling him a big teddy bear in the dressing room, and everything I've read this weekend just points towards the nicest guy on the planet. Was there something you ever saw in the dressing room that really made you think, wow, I can't believe this guy's an enforcer?
Well, he was a serious guy. I mean, he took his role very seriously, and he didn't want other guys doing his job. I mean, if other guys were going to drop the mitts and agitators were going to get him to go, he would get after him. He said, "Hey, that's my job. I can't do your job, so don't try and do my job." That's his contract is not measured in goals and assists; it's measured in fighting majors. And sadly, he became a victim of his own success. No one would fight him, so he became kind of a lose-lose proposition. Teams, he was. So then he just kind of became this uber agitator where he just, 4, 6 minutes, whatever minutes he was going to get a night, he was just going to go out there and wreak havoc and try and just stir it up and take guys' heads off. But, he he had a lot of concussions. When enforcers get concussed, it's not really a concussion. They got their bell rung. It's part of the code, part of their culture.
Right.
And they know that if they're going to sit out, there's 5 kids from Medicine Hat and Moose Jaw that are going to take their job. So that's just part of the deal. So I remember one day last summer. Never really told this story, but I remember one day I was playing in a golf tournament and I got a call from him, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to come get me." I'm like, "Well, I'm playing golf." And he's like, "Well, I need you to come and get me." I'm like, "Well, where are you?" And he's like, "I don't know." Like, "What do you mean you don't know? Where are you?" He's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, ask somebody." And it turned out he was at like a big home improvement store, but he just, it's amazing what those guys go through and the pounding they take. And I've written a couple books on the code I did the football code about the unwritten rules in different sports, and the CTE, his brain is being donated for research purposes. And these guys, with the pounding they take between junior and the minors and the pros, and just the constant pounding, and it leads to early onset adult dementia and different problems. You see it a lot in football, and I interviewed all the old football players with Mike Ditka with the Gridiron Grades program about what's going on. The guys like Bill Romanowski, all these head-on car collision analogies of just the constant pounding, and it took a toll. And Boogie missed. He only played 22 games this year. He missed half the season, most of the season, because he was out. And so I don't know what the ultimate cause is going to be. And I'm hoping for the best. And it's just sad he's gone. But I know that it really did take a toll on him. All that pounding, and really, when you look at those guys, they're fighting for everyone else. 99% of their battles are for filthy things their teammates do, and they just have to go out there and answer the bell. So they really are the most selfless players, and you got to just respect what they do so much. And we turned the code into a movie. It showed up in Canada, and there's another group that's just finishing a movie. It's with a guy, Alex Gibney. It's based loosely on the book. It's called The Last Gladiator. Alex won an Oscar last year. It's coming out later this year, and we follow a lot of the enforcers, and we follow a lot about Probert. And sadly, Bob, passed away this year. Obviously, you guys know that, and I don't know what analogies to draw, but I just know that it's such a tough position, and the pounding those guys go through it's really misunderstood.
Good stuff, Ross. We really appreciate your time, man. Good luck with future projects. We'll get you back on maybe during the summer to expand on it a little bit. Take care, man.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Ross Bernstein, author. The Code, by the way, is something that you should probably read as a hockey fan if you haven't, especially for the Bertuzzi-Moore stuff that's in the book. It's really kind of enlightening and good stuff from a lot of the great brawlers of the last 20 years. That's available on Ross Bernstein's website, bernsteinbooks.com.